Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. The Chris Voss Show. Hey, we're coming here live with another broadcast of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys in audience. You guys are always wonderful being here, downloading the podcast out. We're really excited. We've seen a tripling of the podcast downloads. So thanks for telling all your friends, neighbors, relatives, dogs, cats, mistresses, pool boys, all those people to tune in to the Chris Voss Show podcast. You can go to iTunes, Google Play, the TuneIn app. You can also go to youtube.com/Chris Voss and support the show at patreon.com/Chris Voss. I've got a wonderful guest here, as we always do. We have interesting guests with interesting lives, businesses, and everything else they're going to talk about. I have Paul. And Paul, let me get your last name correctly here as I flipped off this. Paul Kortman. Paul Kortman is a gentleman who's a certified nerd, a nomad, and a marketing extraordinaire who's loaned his insights to a variety of businesses. In 2010, Paul combined his 12 years of expertise in information technology and digital marketing into his agency, Connex Digital Marketing. Since then, Paul has gone on to co-found 3 other companies and help countless businesses succeed through marketing and increase sales. In the last 7 years of doing various projects for his clients, Paul and his team at Connex have found a couple of simple techniques which their clients win every time. Maybe we'll get a chance to share some of that with him. Also, he has an interesting life. When he is not busy helping business startups, he loves to travel with his wife and 4 lovely kids, and they live on the road as location-independent family. So those should be some interesting stories we'll have coming up. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I'm joining you live from the pickup truck because it is the best soundproof system when you're working at home with 4 kids. The pickup truck has the best audio. So just to give everybody a little bit of a visual of where I'm at.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that do blogging or posting or videos from their vehicles, and then I realized that they have kids at home, so that's probably the safest place and quietest place they can be to make those things. And of course, we'll probably get into maybe some of your stories of living as a location independent family, which I'm really excited to hear about. On top of the SEO stuff, and then because I have some different friends that do that as well, but. Yeah, I don't have kids, so I don't have the experience. Every now and then one of my dogs will bugger me during a podcast. But yeah, I realize now when I see people in cars, I'm like, like that. Who's that Chewbacca mom? She had to do that video in her in her car. So there's that. So Paul, give us your links, your places where people can click to find out more about you as we go through the podcast.
Well, I'm Namtrok on Twitter, so that's NAMTROK, and that's my personal social media avenue of choice. But outside of that, connexdigitalmarketing.com, and then something that might be interesting is nomadtogether.com. That's the word nomad.com. No phones there. That's just a site that we've set up, a community to enable other people to travel like us. And then if you want to get really crazy and spy on our kids and get to know their names and all that, we do a travel blog over at homealongtheway.com. So all of those are available on all the social channels, but the big ones are Namtrok on Twitter and then connexdigitalmarketing.com.
Cool. So let's talk about your business first. Let's get into the SEO stuff. You guys are deep into that and helping businesses really do their success. Tell us about what you're doing over there and what's working.
So I've been doing this for countless years. I mean, as my own business for 7, but before that, working for the man, if you will, working for other agencies. And it's really irritating to do marketing and then, like, on one hand, you're successful because, hey, we drove traffic or whatever. But at the end of the day, you realize, like, I need to exist so that my clients can have more sales. Sales, if they don't have more leads, if they can't make more money, then they're wasting every dollar they're spending with me. And I, had grown to the point of where this was not acceptable. Of like, yes, somebody came to me and said they wanted a specific project, or they wanted, fill a library of social media content, and yeah, we can do that, or build me a better website. Yeah, we can do that. And so like there was all this digital marketing stuff that we were doing. Improve my funnel. Yeah, we can do that. Or drive traffic from Google AdWords. Yeah, we can do that. But at the end of the day, it was like, well, wait a minute. Seeing, sales, seeing conversions, seeing people sign up. And so then through all that and realizing all this money that's being spent and whatnot, and just kind of going, well, wait a minute, what if I could boil things down and keep it really simple? Like we only do these two things and we do them really well. And when I say we, I mean, I invariably always have a staff, whether it's, one or two people over the course of the last 7 years, or now we were up at 10, we're now back down to 8. But as we flex and adjust there, it's always we. I work better with a team. But what if we could really specialize? And that's what we've done. And we've gotten a really good system for both SEO and PPC. But PPC isn't really magical, and neither is SEO. We were talking pre-show, and it's like, SEO is kind of boring. It's been there, done that. What I want to bring to your audience today is like how the nuts and bolts of how it really works. Like there isn't like a super magic sauce, but then how we do it at scale. To give people an idea, we generate 250 backlinks in a given month.
Wow.
And these are all relationships we don't maintain or have or know, or it's not a private blog network or anything. So yeah, we'll just tease that and walk away from it.
So you build 250 for your company, or for when you work with clients, you're building those. You build 250 backlinks to help drive traffic for them.
Yeah, we build the backlinks for our clients. We found that in SEO, so specifically, I was doing a lot. I'm a nerd. As you read in my bio, I come from a sysadmin side of life, and so I can bash script with the best of them. But when it came down to it, like SEO was very nerdy in the beginning days. Like it's very technical, and I still focused for a long time on the technical side of it. But then, as Google has grown, as they've shifted their algorithm and that sort of thing, we realize that there's a certain, few high level things that are super important. And by the way, like your headings and your eggs and all this, like your title tags, those aren't the things that are going to move the needle. And what we found is that backlinks are really the way that it's working. Needle is moving, if you will. And the key is like spam and so much terribleness. You can go to Fiverr and you can buy 500,000 backlinks right now, and I guarantee your website will never rank again. But private blog network, but it's even for so that links still to this day are the thing ranking, and that gets people over the top.
It looks like we're having trouble with our feed there, Paul. So links are still working great when it comes to backlinks and putting them in the system for you guys. And you guys have been doing this for 7 years. So there's that. And you're able with your family to travel all over the world and do different things. What is the future that you see of what's coming up with SEO and planning stuff out for one's website?
Well, Brian Dean, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's over at Backlinko, and he just released an article on RankBrain. And if I were just to, take a shot in the dark as to what the future is and whatnot, that article talks a lot about what the future will be and where search is going and where business is going. The more intelligent machines are getting, the more intelligent we're able to program them and get through all the cruft between different and terminology and that sort of thing. Still right now, result, when you go to type in a search query in Google, you need to think of what the answer is. Google is trying to get it the other way around. So for example, like this one, it doesn't work, but it helps illustrate it. What is the tallest mountain in the world? Well, it's Mount Everest. But that's the query. What is the tallest mountain in the world? But if you typed it in just as in the world, you're going to get Everest back. And Google is trying to get to the point of where they're understanding what you're asking. Understanding. So for example, like I'm going to write a blog post about Everest, but I'm not going to write what is the tallest mountain in the world. Everest as the tallest mountain in the world. And so Google needs to connect that up, that when somebody is asking what is, the answer is on the blog post that I've produced or whatever. So again, that illustration kind of fails because the translation is straightforward there, but there's another illustration that I can't think of right on the spot. I'm sorry, but where the shift is happening now of Google is able to, and the machines, if you will, are able to connect up that when you're talking about aspects of somebody is asking a question, they may not be using the same words, but they want the answer that you're providing. And so for Google to be able to be smart enough to say, let's cut through the words and be able to know exactly what is the answer to that person's query and offer that up to them. I think with voice search, it'd be really weird in the next 5 years to see where voice search is going to take us, because it further separates keywords and just kind of says, okay, well, this person wants something specific. They're not, like, how can I get that answer to them better?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting that way. One thing I've, and maybe you can give me some insight to this, but one thing I've been wondering lately with the advent of Google Home and Alexa, we saw a lot of Google Home promotion, a little bit of Alexa, but mostly Google Home at CES 2018, just recently. And I've noticed that when I ask my Google Home to take and do playlists or play music or videos, many times it will go pick out like a music video off of YouTube. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't pick a lot of Vivo based videos, which they have to pay royalties on. But it'll sometimes just pick like something out of my playlist. It doesn't play my videos, but I've been trying to figure out how to make that work. But it's been interesting to me that it's promoting links when I ask it stuff. And I've been wondering, I wonder if there's a way to game that to where if people say, what's a good JBL review? It will pull up a Chris Voss video. And that may be the future of search, like you say, a voice activated search.
Yeah, none of us have the answers. We're all still like, both those of us on the content side that we're producing the answers and trying to help people, and those of us, I would say on the Google employee side, the engineers who are trying to code that up and make it work better, know where voice search is going to go in the next 2 years, and how that's going to be different. But
I wonder if I should be putting in my YouTube videos a search term, Google Home or Hey Google or Alexa. Shit, I just activated it. Damn it. Hey Google, stop. Oh man, they're both lighting up. I had the Harman Kardon Cortana here for a while, so I had Cortana, Alexa, and Google Home. And now, shut up, Alexa, stop it. Oh my God, it's like a family I have to argue with now. So, God, I've set off. So anyway, it's interesting all the different home things that you have, and then half the time you have your phone arguing with Google Home Pickup and Google Home the unit.
Yep.
So it's just, but yeah, voice search is pretty interesting to me. I went through a period where I really needed some Zen, peace, and quiet, and I started listening to like solo piano and asking the G home, we'll call it, for solo piano music. And what was interesting is it started playing YouTube videos, and they weren't YouTube videos that were like Vivo sponsored sort of thing. And then I started looking them up and looking at videos that it was feeding me when I would ask it questions, and realizing that someone like me who does YouTube videos is getting money off of Google Home. And I just need to figure out how to make that search and algorithm work to tap into my videos when people ask about stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And I've got all my devices off. So, you can, well, actually, no, I have one sitting here, but, things like Hey Siri and, Alexa and that sort of thing, like you can actually add them into your content to see if that's going to impact things. I mean, like, I don't know if we transcribed today's podcast, but having that in there, we've talked about it a bunch. Is that going to help? At this point, I would say no, but I think I'm
going to get bored today and go actually into my keywords on YouTube and do a mass append and add, hey, Google Home, Alexa. Oh, fuck, I did it again.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, you don't. I hate you. It's a love-hate relationship. I'm not married. I don't have kids because I can't afford them. So you have listening devices. This is the family that I have to argue with. It's pretty sad, isn't it? It's just whenever I want to argue with somebody, I just start arguing with the automated devices, and sometimes my dogs. So what else do we need to know about SEO? What else is going on in the world that you think is pertinent to our audience?
Well, I still think, like, if we, so many changes and everything has come and gone and people are all nervous about everything. And I think we just need to take a step back and realize that it's back to basics. Are you providing value? And then are you then marketing that content, whatever form that is, whether it's video or audio or text, or visual of some other kind? Are you then reaching out and saying, hey, Paul, I think you would like this. If so, share it with your audience. And yes, that could be on social channels, but you could also say, hey, share it with your audience via your website, via linking from, YouTube or wherever it is. But that, just asking them to do that has, 99% of us are afraid to ask for a favor from a stranger. But if you can get over that hurdle and say, listen, I've generated really content, like stellar, like I'm proud of this and I think this is fantastic. And it's not just about shilling. It's about like this content is actually helpful to you, my target audience.
You bring up a good point. I should be announcing to my audience more. You bring up a good point. I'll even have companies that we do review products for. Like we'll review, like, just say, for example, JBL speaker. JBL doesn't do this, but I'll have companies that will say to me, hey, that review video you did is really awesome. Do you mind if we share it on your website? I'm like, do I mind? Go ahead, knock yourself out. I have like somewhere there's a speaker company. I forget who it is. I think it's not Bowers and Wilkins. It's B&O, which is a company that makes really rich, expensive stuff. But they put my video on their website, and that thing just kills both the blog posts that I made for it and the YouTube video. They just pound the crap out of it. I get so much traffic from that. But you're right. I should ask my audience, or maybe I should make it known to my audience, hey, my content is available for sharing. You can repurpose it, especially the YouTube videos, because those, they can't really screw that up. And I'm, I'll get paid for that. But I really should do what you're saying, reach out to people and make it more optimum to my audience that, hey, you can take and share my stuff.
Yeah. And, in your case, you can reach out to companies, but also just other bloggers or other audience members of, like, hey, I know you reviewed this certain speaker. So did I, but I've got a different take. I'd love for you to add my take to your blog post and see if people like my take or not. You know,
It
and
might
so
be
like
interesting. Create
even
a
to have some controversy.
maybe that's what I should do. I do miss the controversies we used to have back in the day were always was the iPhone and Google phones. And I pretty much was guaranteed if I did a YouTube video of, iPhone 6 versus Samsung Galaxy 6, which is better. I mean, it would just get a pile of arguments and fights and make me a ton of money on the views, because people would be coming back to fight and they'd be like, I'm gonna get back. That person said this and that person said that. And it was just great. It was like I just sit back and hear just the clinking of change into my accounts. People would be like, "Do you know there's an Armageddon war on your YouTube video with 1 million views?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine with me. They can argue about whatever they want. I get paid either way." YouTube's pretty funny that way. In fact, you can go on YouTube and troll me and tell me what a horrible person I am and my life's not worthwhile because I did a bad review. But it's fine. What people don't realize is every time they're leaving a comment or interacting with one of my videos, I'm getting paid. So it's like, it's like getting paid to insult me, where you're like, "Hey, Chris, here's $1. You're a jerk." And I'm like, who really wins in this equation?
Well, the key is whether or not you win. You read it.
Yeah.
If you don't read it, you're making money and it's all good.
Exactly. And sometimes I'll read it. When I read it, I just hear the clinking of change in my head. I'm like, thanks for giving me another comment. That actually helps YouTube know that my videos are being watched and viable. So thanks for that. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting business with SEO and stuff. I know for a lot of years, people used to ping me about doing, I think, no follow backlinks. I still get pinged for doing no follow backlinks. I don't know. They've changed it so many times. I don't know which way is up when it comes to SEO anymore, personally, because you live in a different world than I do. But I still get no follow stuff from people. I guess that's still a viable thing.
Yeah. So the no follow versus do follow is the two option, and whether or not which one passes more link juice and which one is worth going after and all this. In reality, Google has it written into their algorithm to say, well, listen, you're going to get a percentage of no follow and a percentage of do follow. And the reality is, if people are actually finding your content valuable, they're going to link to it. Whether it's a no follow or do follow or whatever, like, you can kind of, again, we're getting down into the weeds of like, is that really going to matter? No, it's not. It's, are people finding your content valuable enough to talk about? And if they're not, so back in the day when Google came out with Google Plus and all this, I actually named my company Connex Social, even though all I did was SEO, because I believed that social media was signal the future of moving forward. It was a huge indicator that this should, this is valuable content and it should be worth paying attention to. We're finding a significant difference now, and obviously Google Plus is dead and all this. By the way, if you didn't know, it is. If you're still that, 3 or 4 people that are there who think it's alive and kicking and it's the easiest way to get a hold of Google engineers, and it's like, yeah, great. But anyways, and Google's been shut off from Facebook data and Twitter data. And, a big part of that is because, well, I'm not going to say why that is. We know why that is, because Facebook and Twitter want to make their own money instead of letting Google leech off of their data.
They pulled off their garden.
Yeah, but now Google is realizing, at the same time as all the rest of us content producers, like, well, wait a minute. There's a difference between content that's going to go viral and get shared quite a bit on social media, and content that's going to be shared on a blog post, or content that's going to be written about, or like that resource, that heavy, thick, like, this is the ultimate guide to whatever, be shared more significantly and be more valuable in search than the 21. I can't believe this happened in a photograph, that goes viral on social. Like, that's that's not really valuable on the search side of life. And so Google is able to separate that. And I think, we're coming to a better understanding now on the content generation side, where we're producing content that's either, just kind of more like FAQs. So if you think from your business perspective, I'm going to produce content that's, what's it like working with Paul, or what's it like working with Connex and the marketing agency? I'm going to produce other content that's going to be role content, like the 13 worst mistakes every marketer has ever made, or whatever. Just so that I get a bunch of social shares and get some publicity. And then, the next type of content that I'm going to produce is this content that is for search, but it's like answers people's questions in a way that's like, I can't say it any better than to say the ultimate guide to. So it's the how-to doc, it's the course, if you will, in one article, in one piece of content. And so where people can come there and get all their questions answered, and get things taken care of. And that will be something that people will link to and use as a resource. So for example, this does a video on best Hangouts on Air setup or YouTube live setup. And it's like, okay, well now when I go to do my thing, I'm going to say, here's the resource I used. Thanks, Chris Voss. Video, or embed it directly. That is going to obviously help Chris, but it's because Chris has generated a really valuable piece of content that is the ultimate resource on how to do Hangouts on Air or YouTube Live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this has helped you build a business or a life where you can where you have this nomad life that's getting very popular. I've even considered it for a lot of years, where I considered, because I love photography, I considered, being a single guy driving around in an RV, and I have several friends that do this, and just have me and my dogs and go photograph America. And at the time, I really was serious about considering it. I had two older dogs that were 15 and 16, and I realized very quickly that in their age, the road wasn't going to be good for them. And they were starting to have a lot of health issues, and I thought, well, it might be better until we wait until after that. So it's interesting to me, how's that working out for you guys? How long have you been doing the nomad life?
We've been doing it for over 3 years now, and well, it's almost 4. Next month it'll be 4 years, and we just returned back to the States for the first time in 2.5 years. And there was a lot of shocking, a lot of eye-opening, and just to give listeners an idea, like I've got 4 kids. My oldest is now 11, my youngest is 5. So we set out, my youngest was under 2, he was 1.5, and my oldest was 7. And so we've been, I guess if I could say anything, like, so many people don't believe that it's possible, and I don't know that we're an example, but just to say, listen, it is possible. It is more possible now than ever before. I know my internet's flaking out just a little bit here and there, but here I am sitting in the middle of nowhere in Mexico, able to have this live, and able to do any work that you can do sitting at home in the States. And so, yeah, that first year we flew around the world, and then our second RV, and drove it through Canada, the States, and 75% of Mexico. And so we've put quite a few miles and kilometers on that. And now we're into a new phase where we're going to be living in the RV for 6 months out of the year here in Mexico, and then flying to the beach somewhere for 6 months out of the year. Here in Mexico, we're not at the beach. We're in the mountains, high desert, 6,000 feet in the air. And yeah, just loving it. Have horses. So we're getting the best of both worlds, of where, because we're stationary for 6 months out of the year, that other 6 months we can have people come in and house sit, or rent our place. We have neighbors who will take care of our horses and our dogs here, and we're able to travel and
That's
have our
that's
cake
pretty
and eat it
amazing.
too.
I had somebody on the show earlier that several episodes ago who was going into the van life. I have another good friend who's doing what you're doing. They're moving through different houses and staying for maybe, I don't know how long they're doing it, but like for a year at a time, and they move to like a completely different state. I think it's pretty wonderful. I don't know how it is for kids. I remember we moved around a lot as a kid, and I wasn't too excited about it. But we also moved from California to Utah. So I moved from a place where I was on the beach every day wearing shorts and having a great time to this horrible state. It's the worst in the nation, and freezing cold, coats, and you always have to wear like multiple coats. And so I went from this kid who lived on the beach and ran around half naked on the beach all the time, in the sun, getting a tan every year, to this frigid, stupid, idiotic place with the 20 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to its mindset and lifestyle. So maybe the reason I did hate it was because of that. We moved to such an awful place. It did actually, in hindsight, it actually did broaden my horizons. I think people that are military brats that end up getting moved around quite a bit, I think it broadens your horizon, opens you up to different cultural views, different people views. I think I'm more aware of the world and people that are inside of it and their struggles and everything, is because I moved around. And of course, you're doing something completely different, where you're doing, actually what I did was kind of a culture change, but with culture shock. If you want a culture shock, move to Utah.
Totally.
It will shock you. I'm still in shock. But what you guys are doing, your kids are getting to grow up and see different ethnicities, different cultures, different experiences of life. I would have liked to have moved to a few different countries as a kid, because, we see this really today with this clawback that's going on in the nation of trying to pull us back to the 50s, and this concept of America and this we're Americans, and I live from the concept that we're all human, very John Lennon Imagine in my thought process. And I hope someday we'll reach a point where there's just one flag and one country, and that's the country of humanity. And we just decide to all be nice to each other without having to kill people over the color of our flags or shape of them, the shape of the images on them, I mean. But so it's got to be interesting for you. What challenges did you run into when you started on this journey, or did this journey, or were you still running into challenges with?
So much to talk about there. One of the things I wanted to take a step back and say, when you look at military brats, it's often they're moved when they didn't want to and where they didn't want to go, and the location independent life to go. Where are the cool places that we want to visit? When is the right time for our family? And so, for example, there's the town that we're living in. We came here for a specific doctor for one of our kids. And it's like, because we can go there, because we can be flexible about that, we can make our life choices around helping our kids. And so, to take it one step back, Becky and I, my wife and I, we actually chose this lifestyle for our kids and said, yeah, sure, Becky and I get to enjoy some cool things out of this. Don't get me wrong, but traveling with 6 people is not easy. And so like if I wanted an easy, enjoyable life, I would sit at home and travel by myself, but we wanted to help our kids expand their worldview, and to have our 11-year-old has a really good argument about the politics going on in the US right now. And it's, she has a really good friend named Kimberly who was deported from the States. And it's like, okay, now she actually knows her. She knows her on this side of the fictitious wall, and she knows her life here, and she knows how much it sucks here because they can't get a job here. There's no money here, but they're doing everything they can, and they lived a middle class or upper middle class lifestyle in the States. And it's like, well, wait a minute, people around and say, okay, to my daughter, what happens if we get deported and get sent back to the States and we lose our horses, we lose our RV, we lose our dogs, we lose all of our Legos and stuff? And she has a really good case about this. And so her worldview at 11 is broader than my worldview at 30 something. Well, I'm almost 40. So, like that is what we set out to do, is to have it so when they're studying about a certain thing or they're learning about a certain thing, it's not just this otherworldly place. It's they've actually been to Thailand. They know what the Silk Road is. They've been to Africa. They've seen how slavery has still impacted Africa, and that sort of thing. And so like I don't know, and then the other thing is we do take their wishes and desires into our future planning. And so it's
so
not
they
just
can help choose where you're going next.
And one of the requests, we've been in the desert for a while now, and so one of their major requests just so happens to be my request too, but let's get to the beach. And so that's like they don't care where.
Cabo.
Well, Cabo is fantastic. But we were just in Michigan in the United States. Michigan is where Becky and I hail from. And so you talk about cold. Yeah, we've not lived in the States for 3 years. We've not been around snow for over 3 years. And on my son's bucket list was he wanted to, throw a snowball and play in the snow and go sledding and ice skating and all this. And it's like, okay, we're going to do the crazy thing and we're going to travel the snow and buy a bunch of snow clothes and, enjoy our time there. So, those sorts of aspects of the kids knowing that they have the freedom to dictate a little bit of where we're going to go and where we're going to be. To a certain degree, it's not just we go on a whim. Oh, the kid wants to go here. We're going to go now. Let's just eat at McDonald's every day. It's more along the lines of talking it through and talking through budget and helping them understand that, they're just little humans. And so if we can decisions just as much as we do, they're going to be better off for their future. So, yeah, we're pretty excited for how things are shaping out so far.
That's pretty cool. It would have been nice to been able to tell my dad, hey, well, I want to move someplace else. I think I did tell him that, but he hit me or slapped me or something.
Well, and he didn't have the freedom. I assume
wasn't that great of a
I
kid
assume
anyway.
they moved for jobs, right?
Yeah.
And now we're at the point of if we can work online, and I believe that anybody could. If you're listening to this, you definitely can. You have the skills to be able to figure out something to get money online. And then if you can lower your cost of living right now, it's pretty expensive to live. I was amazed at how much it was to fill a grocery cart.
Yeah.
Grocery cart bucks. And I was just like, yeah, this is not appropriate. $150 down here gets me 2 grocery carts. So,
wow.
Like those sorts of changes and just kind of go, well, wait a minute. You can't live off of $1,000 in the States in a month, but you can make $1,000 online. What happens if you move to Mexico or Thailand or Germany and could live off of $1,000 and just work online? Like, how would that change things for your life?
I'm always thinking about moving to Thailand. I had a friend who was older, and he's like, we're going to retire in Mexico. And I'm like, why? He goes, the beer is really cheap. And I'm like, really cheap? He goes, yeah, like really cheap. Like it's worth it just for the beer. I'm like, okay. Priorities.
Yeah, and well, that's one thing. But now Mexico has started to buy to the craft brewing option as well. And so you still get the cheap, but now you get some good flavor as well. So
you mentioned,
now is a really good time.
You mentioned one of your children gets medical help in Mexico, and I imagine it's still cheaper to get medical down there or be able to get medical at all.
Yeah, again, like I'm not, my mission here is not to sing Mexico's praises, but there's 90% of the world is different than the US in their healthcare systems, in the fact that it's actually affordable,
Yeah.
and that they have two tiers of options. So you have your free tier that everybody is guaranteed and you can go to, and Mexico has that, and I wouldn't set foot in one of those places, just because you'll wait 6 hours.
Free is good. Free is free.
Yeah, but it just the quality isn't the greatest. But you're here, so I can go to the paid hospital, and no, I don't have health insurance, and yes, I have 4 kids, and no, we're not gonna die. Well, we might at some point, we will, but
long enough time, everyone's survival rate drops to 0, quoting Fight Club.
Exactly. So we look at that and we say, well, wait a minute, how much does it cost to do insurance? Well, for us, it'd be at least $300 a month out of our pocket.
At least
one ER visit, X-rays, and all kinds of crazy stuff. 3 doctors, a dedicated room, and overnight. It was about $100. That's not just deductible; that's the total price. And so we kind of look at that and we say,
when you get old, move to Mexico.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get insurance and you can get even better healthcare, but I'm sorry, we walked in, there was 2 doctors and no patients, and it was like,
wow,
all right, we've got your attention. So
basically, if you can at least pay, some money, you're going to get some exclusive care.
There's no guarantee. I mean, any other day or night, there could have been 8 to 10 people in that ER, but still, to walk into an ER today and to get service, that's not common in the States. Like, I was actually shocked that they have these digital billboards now that it says our ER wait time is 15 minutes right now. And it's like, you're advertising that you can get in faster here for healthcare. Like, that I'm okay with that. So
it's like Starbucks saying it'll only take us 15 minutes to make your Starbucks drink. It's like really irritating. Even my grandmother back in the 80s, this was long before the healthcare sort of crisis in America, she would travel to Mexico to have work done on like her teeth and get her meds because they were just cheaper in Mexico. I mean, you can buy giant bottles of penicillin and everything else, and the BS that you have to go through in U.S. hospitals. I'm turning 50 the end of this month, and if I live beyond that, I've often wondered if, and I have the same thing you do. I can work anywhere in the world where there's Wi-Fi, and even I can even go offline at times, but preferably I like to be online. But I've often thought, what am I going to do if they don't fix what's going on in America with its healthcare systems? Am I going to have to move to Canada and claim asylum, or move to Mexico or France or one of these other countries that have universal healthcare? That's a serious thing going on in my mind, because I realize that we're living longer, but really we're dying longer. So we're just racking up more healthcare bills as we go down. And one of the challenges I see with our systems, I think I just saw this recently. Oh, there's a bunch of people in California who got cut off from one of the healthcare providers that cut everybody off on January 1st. And suddenly all these people don't have insurance. And I guess the even ignorant thing is they post-dated the cutoff to be like a month away from when they actually cut people off, the official cutoff. So they can't get insurance for a whole month. It's just the most insane thing ever. And they didn't notify anybody that they were stopping the insurance. And now hundreds of thousands of people in California don't have insurance. I think this is the San Francisco area. I think it's Anthem. But they suddenly don't have insurance, even though they've been paying. Some of them have been paying for like 20 years. And now their insurance is gone, and they happen to be needing stuff. And just this prospect of that is insane. Or I think recently I saw a viral video of a girl who the insurance company won't pay for some sort of procedure that would save her life. And they've been paying their insurance for like 20 years, like, every month. And all of a sudden now that's worthless. And you're just like, what's going on in our country where you can pay your insurance all your life and then you get cancer and then your insurance company goes, we're not paying that. And they just know that you're probably going to die by the time that goes through the courts to fight them. And it's just insane what's going on. You almost look at, you're almost better at taking that money and saving it in a passbook savings account.
It's so true. But then if you do get hit with something, if you get in an accident, if you get, cancer or whatever the case might be, Lou Gehrig's ALS, something like that, like you're going to rack up a lot of medical bills. Those medical bills are so high for two reasons. One, the litigious nature of the U.S. and how they're covering their own butt for, their malpractice insurance. You're paying for the people who are uninsured, who come and get work done anyways. And so, like, well, wait a minute, I'm paying for all of this. Lower it like everybody else does, and just have healthcare coverage where it's not insurance companies with their profit-driven realities are there. And it's like, I just, to be fully honest with you, it costs me $1.50 to go to the doctor to get a prescription.
$1.50? I'm moving to Mexico. You got a room down there?
Well, there's lots of room down here. There's no work, so everything is so cheap. And it's not like things are going to get more expensive. I mean, it's $1.50. It's been that way for 10 years. Like,
wow,
this is just life. Like,
get me a place on the beach.
And oh, by the way, I need an MRI. I'm considering that I need an MRI. There's an indication that I might have a potential brain aneurysm. I don't know, minor thing, whatever. And so, it's either I die or I don't, and we'll see what happens. But this happened to me while I was in the States, and I was like, oh, please, can I just live until I get back to Mexico so I can get a reasonably priced MRI? Because that is how it goes. Like, we have capabilities of everything, CAT scans, MRIs, you name it. It's all here. It's all available. It's all at the fraction of the price. And you don't have to wait. Like, my brother-in-law needs an MRI scheduled, and so he had to wait a week and a half. And it was like, really? Like, okay, it's strange. And here I can walk in and get an MRI the same day.
Wow. So it's just showing the difference of efficiencies and cost efficiencies when it comes down to it. The note to self, get a second home in Mexico. That's probably what I should do. I went through a period of my life years ago where I grew up poor, so I bought like everything I could the richer I got. And then I started realizing the things that own you, the things that you own end up owning you. And I broke, I think Fight Club was one thing that took me down that path. There's the minimalist.com, I think it is. And I started learning that owning lots of things is really cool and fun, but sometimes you own so much that the cost to maintain them gets so insane, and it becomes a prison where, I grew up poor. And so when I got all these toys, I was like, this is great. I have all this stuff. And then the maintenance on all that stuff and maintaining that lifestyle and the high wire of cost, I ended up being a slave to maintain it all. I had a giant house, so I was having to pay cleaners, a piano. I was having to pay a piano key tuner to come over every 2 months and tune my piano in Utah. Multiple cars, multiple housing. And and then flying around and dealing with it all. It just became a real pain in the butt to sustain and do work for. You'd have to go to work so you could pay for all these toys and maintain them. I remember my BMWs, whenever I take them in for the annual inspections and crap that they do them. It's like, the $2,000 worth of new tires and 2,000 this and 1,000 that. And you're just constantly going, you're servicing all this crap that you own. And I got looking at how hard I was working for to own all these toys, how hard I was working for my business partners. I looked at how hard I was working before taxes to make money after taxes so that I could pay for stuff. A lot of people don't realize at a certain level, you're at a 50% tax bracket. So if you want to have $5,000 worth of toys, you got to earn $10,000. Now, for you've got 4 kids, so you have the advantages of some write-offs that I don't. Since I don't have kids, I pay the full freaking pop. So you start looking at how much do I have to earn to have this sort of toys and lifestyle, and how much work is involved in doing that. And certainly becoming a minimalist like I became, and kind of started living a more of a life where I could move around and stuff like that. That really helped me. I got really lucky in 2005 where I got rid of my last home that I owned and moved to Vegas. And we were going to invest in homes here, and then the bubble popped. And so because of that and the ensuing, 6 years, 7 years, we're finally now getting back to where the market, where owning a home is relevant. But for a long time there, it was just a deep hole. And so I was really kind of blessed that I didn't get caught in that, negative area with owning a home and being upside down, et cetera, and either losing the home or giving it up, which a lot of people did. And so it's being able to make me nomadic, where I can move around. And then, of course, at the same time, I discovered this life where you can work on the internet. So it's really a blessing. But yeah, you're right. Also being able to look at your life and go, do I really need all this crap? I mean, how important is it really? And then, it's like I always see these people, they buy the RV. And what do you always see the people that have the RV? It's always sitting on blocks in their freaking driveway. It rarely goes anywhere. You're just like, you're making payments on the RV. If I had that RV, well, of course, everyone says that. If I had an RV, I'd go out every weekend and do stuff. But you don't. You don't.
It's so much work. And, we live in it full time, so we don't have the choice. But, it's...
Yeah, if you have an RV for living in it, that's a different thing. But, I see these people that, it's like my favorite thing. You'll see one of your neighbors buy an RV and you're like, wow, they're going to go RVing a lot. And for like the first month you own it, you do it. We did the same thing with a boat. Years ago, me and my business partner bought a boat. We're like, we're going to go boating like every weekend. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I think we went like 2 times or 3 times in a year. And then like after a year and a half or something, we finally just sold the boat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I think there's a saying, and the cost of what it costs to maintain the boat, because we were always damaging the propeller, the engine was mucking up, or, some crap was always going on with the boat that we had to throw money at it. I think there's a saying that the best days of owning a boat are the days is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Not to say that they're fun, but it's just the maintenance of owning things and wanting things and having so many things. And you talk about simplifying your life, cutting it down to where, you really work the necessities. But yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I wonder if I'm gonna, I've been really lucky with my health and continue to be really lucky with my health, knock on wood. But I can tell that, the body's slowing down, and the brain went a long time ago. We all know that. But every listener on the podcast is like, yeah, that went a long time ago. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's cool that you've been able to build that life and maintain it.
Yeah. One other thing that I don't know if you knew about this, but depending on, I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not your, official on this, so take my words for a grain of salt. But your first 90,000 of revenue in a year is tax free if you live outside the States.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like, hey, if you want one big write-off, even if you don't have kids, like just spend 336 days outside of the US in a given year, and you will have you will be able to write that off, your first 90 as being tax-free.
All right, Paul, I got to start moving, man. I'm moving to Vegas. I'll see you. Thanks, man.
and these sorts of things, like I've been singing Mexico's praises, but this is true in all of South America and Central America, in a lot of Southern Europe, in a lot of Southeast Asia. And if you really want to be gutsy, go for Africa. But like just that tax write-off thing, it's just, you just have to not set foot in the States for more than 29 days in a given calendar year. And it's like, okay.
That's pretty
and
interesting.
They split hairs, because if you're flying from Mexico to Canada but never landing in the States, there's a potential that the States can claim that as a travel day, and that includes one day inside the States. So
that gives you the 30th day.
Yeah.
So you got to watch your 29 days. That's very interesting. So even if you're getting income from a U.S. company that's paying you, is that tax free, or?
Well, I mean,
you can have
that you make personally is without taxes.
Huh. Interesting.
Now,
interesting.
You got to be careful, because like in our case, we're residents in Mexico, so now we apply for taxes here. We can pay taxes here, not like anybody does, but we will pay taxes here. And
so
that also becomes a write-off. We don't have
dual
the
citizenship yet.
We're working on that, but
okay.
That'll take a few more years, and or $100,000, either way, one way or the other.
Got all of Mexico.
It there.
You have to wait a few years or $100,000.
Well, there's actually countries, including like Spain, that if you just deposit $50,000 into a bank account and leave it there, you can get citizenship.
Wow.
But that's for one person.
Pretty hot. I might move to Spain. Yeah, I mean, I seriously have had to consider what the future would be if I ever did run into health complications, moving to another country. I mean, it's something I have to seriously consider. I have the ability to do it because I work on the internet. Yeah, it's something. It's sad that I have to think of things in that manner with our broken healthcare system, that we'll have to move to another country that will take me in and be like, "We'll take care of your stupid dumbass."
Yeah,
maybe I will move. Although I used to have a dream back in the day, and I still think it's a dream, although I can't really drink booze anymore. My body just doesn't deal with it well, which is part of the fun of getting old. But I always dreamed of getting me like a little crap bar on the beach somewhere, and then living on the beach, or living in a I've always wondered about if I would like living in a boat, get like a boat on the dock, live in the boat, have a little bar on the beach, so I can just kind of meander in a drunken state from the bar to the boat, sleep, and then go back and forth, and live in like St. Thomas or someplace, that's really beautiful, where it has beautiful beaches, beautiful sunsets, and that could be my runoff, I suppose. The one reason I do stay in the States is because my mom and seeing my family, but it might be after she passes, I'll just be like, screw this, I'm going elsewhere. Because I really would like to see more of the world. I really would like to do more photography. Cuba, when Cuba opened up there for a while, I was really excited to try and get to Cuba to photograph that place, because it was such a time capsule stuck in time. And I'm still interested in doing that, but I guess it's hard to travel there.
No, it's not. It like, again, one of those like, do people think that Cuba is closed off for American citizens? The U.S.
No, Trump announced a bunch of crap, and I just went, oh god.
Yeah, well, he does that every day. It's called Twitter.
That's true. Yeah.
But the U.S. will or will not let you fly to Cuba. Mexico will let you fly to Cuba, so will Canada. So you just have to get a flight to Canada or to Mexico, and then get a flight to Cuba.
I moved to Cuba,
Super simple.
but the Wi-Fi is horrible, so
it's pretty bad.
How is the Wi-Fi in Mexico, by the way?
It's fantastic. Although I do have to say, yeah, I do have to say, they're the city we're in, they're rolling fiber out in the downtown area, and that's fantastic. But yeah, if you're not on fiber, you're still stuck to 20 megs. So
okay, that might not work for my gaming online. I don't know. And you know, I'm a single guy, so there are certain websites that I need a lot of download power on. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I mean, yeah, can you do satellite Wi-Fi in Mexico, where you can get maybe a satellite micro dish or something?
You can, but that would be awful. The lag time there is just terrible. So
is it really?
It's no good. But you know, we've been living, you know, for a long time. We had done 4 to 10 megs, and now we're on 20, and nothing queues, nothing waits. You know, we just carry on.
Moving up in the world, we're up to 20 megs of download. Yeah, baby.
Hey, well, 20 down, 20 up. So for you YouTube out there matters, but you know, I can just go to the cafe down the street and it's 50 down, 50 up. So
oh wow,
you know, when I say they're rolling fiber out, they're really rolling fiber out here, and it's pretty insane.
That's wild, man. So is it cheaper or safer to live down by the beach? I know some of my friends that have gone to some of the beach resort properties, they tell them, you know, don't step off the property because you'll end up kidnapped for ransom and God knows what else.
If you step foot off the property or off of their controlled ecosystems, you'll spend money with somebody else.
So that's really just a money making thing, huh?
It is. And you know, for the majority of people who come and visit and stay on the all-inclusives or whatever, like, stay there. I don't want you in Mexico. You know, like, that's not the real Mexico. That's your little drunken enjoyment, and go for it. But you know, for the rest of us who live and breathe and move around Mexico and whatnot, like, how safe is it? Well, here's a couple of things. One, illegal ones. 2, I don't buy them. 3, I don't sell them. And so yeah, the cartels have no desire to deal with me. They look at me and they say, well, okay, that's a political nightmare waiting to happen if they mess with me, because the U.S. Embassy and all that gets involved, and it's just annoying. And so they just kind of say whatever. And oh, by the way, sorry, this doesn't apply to you, Chris, but you know, I don't stay out late night partying. I have kids, and so they wake up early. But you know, late night partying, usually the crimes here, it's either cartels or it's you know, petty theft, sort of stupidity stuff. But like, yeah, mugging. And you know, you got really drunk and you woke up and your phone and wallet are gone.
Yeah. I've had friends that have gotten hustled because they got too drunk in Mexico and in Tijuana, and you know, they'll call me up. They'll be like, "Hey, man, this really great friend in a bar, and we're getting drunk together." And I'm like, "You better hide your money in your phone." And then they'll call me the next day, and they're like, "The guy stole my phone." And you're like, "You're a dummy." I could see that coming. In fact, one of my favorite stories. This happened in the 90s. One of my managers that worked for me, he went to Mexico for a wedding. It was kind of funny. And so one of the wedding buddies, one of his friends, decides he wants to get a Mexican hooker. So they pick up a hooker, and they're in their Land Rover, and they've got their credit cards in the panel of their car, and their ID and everything is in the panel of the car. So they pick up this Mexican hooker, and the Mexican hooker goes, "You know, we're gonna need more condoms." And so she gets him to stop at the store to buy condoms and whatever. And so she's like, yeah, just leave the car running, go in the store and get the condoms. Well, he's so damn excited, he leaves the car running, comes out, the car's gone, credit card's gone, ID's gone, passport's gone. And so they have to hoof it to the embassy and hang out there for like a week or something to be able to prove they can get back in. So yeah, you got to be careful what you do. You can't just be a stupid American in some of these places. But I'm sure that with what you're doing, you get the lay of the land and learn all the things to do and not to do. What about
it could happen in the States too? It's one of those things of where if you're going to be a stupid person, you're going to be a stupid person no matter what country you're in. So good luck.
Well, having hookers steal my money, I just call that Friday nights. But I do keep the land room.
Nice.
But, so let me ask you this, because I'm now curious about Mexico. What if you liked pot edibles? Because they recently made those legal here in, I think, July in Las Vegas. And while I'm not a big stoner sort of dude, they are kind of nice for pain in my old age, pain and everything. And I found that they're better on my body than alcohol is when it comes to just recovering the next day. I mean, it sounds like if you do involve in some of those drugs in Mexico, you're probably going to run into problems. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, they're
if you're medical marijuana
developing worlds are a little bit behind on the medical marijuana side of life, because it's insanely hard to police in the States. Now imagine if your police force is corrupt or questionable, it's really hard to police that outside. So the laws in Mexico are still really strict about marijuana.
Really?
But you can say, well, wait a minute, like there's a cut and dry, like, how in high school and in college we have stoners in the States, and it's like, oh, they're just stoners, no big deal. You don't have that in Mexico. You have just users. You're either in the cartel or you're not. And if you're not, you don't touch the stuff.
Wow.
And so, if you have a gram or an ounce on you, you're good luck. You're going to see, you're going to be in jail. And so you don't mess with
cancel plans to move to Mexico.
So that is a little bit on the upside.
I'm not a big marijuana user, and I don't like the high like I do like a booze high. But it's so great for pain. And the older I'm getting and the more pain I'm getting and the more, the knee does this and the back does this and the hip does this. And sometimes just overall stress, an edible marijuana, which is legal here in Nevada, I should probably point out, recreational now. I see why people use it from a medical standpoint of pain. I use mine for pain. In fact, what I found is I use a little bit of it enough to get out of pain, but still be able to function through my day. But I'll use it instead of acetaminophen, you know what I'm saying? Tylenol, basically. And instead of going for the acetaminophen or whatever the hell it's called, I'll take like a little teeny piece of an edible, and then I'll be pain free throughout the day for whatever's bugging me. It's usually like a knee clicking or some pain that I'm in. And I have found that with alcohol, I just can't recover the next day. And sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 days. And the older you get, the less it seems you could drink, which is a horrible way to live your life. To me, I was hoping that I could get old and drink for the rest of my life. And I'm like, as long as I can drink and I won't be able to feel the pain of getting old, or I can drink it away, that'll be fine. But I guess now that's being taken away from me as well. So what are you going to do?
And the weird part is that we've been so ingrained that pot is so bad. Like here, we've come a long way on this show, by the way. Now we're discussing the legality of pot and all that. But
we're finding out about how it works in Mexico.
Look at pot versus Tylenol. Like, okay, there's still, it's a pharmaceutical, it's a drug, whatever the case might be. It has altering effects on your body. Now, if you
Yeah.
take too much Tylenol, it's going to have
Yeah, Tylenol can kill your kidneys, and it does horrible things to your kidneys, really. When it
really
comes down.
bad stuff for you, right? And if you
Does it
take
right on
too
the point.
much pot, you're going to have really bad side effects as well. So, like, what if we look at it this way and just say, well, wait, Tylenol versus pot, if you take it in moderation, appropriately, it's the same thing. And yet, because for so long we've had this war on drugs, there's now a cultural stigma and a I don't know, shame on you if you touch pot. And it's like it's funny because you had to go through and you had to like backpedal and be like, it's okay now, it's recreational, it's legal.
Well, I
and
wanted
all
to
this,
point
and
that out because certain people maybe listen to certain states where, my mom, I even talked to my mom about it, and she lives in Utah, and she's like, you should bring some up so I can try it for pain. And I'm like, Mom, here in Nevada, it's $50. In your city, it's in your state, it's $5 to $10. So there's that. And I'm really not someone who wants to go to jail. That's kind of one of my things. Kind of weird that way. And I don't know. Things are really changing here in the States. I imagine we're going to have nationalized, legalized pot here soon. We may need to rotate a president and an attorney general for it, but we've got a year. God, please, midterms. You can't come any sooner. But we'll see how that turns out. But it is interesting. It is interesting to learn that Mexico doesn't have liberal drug laws. Maybe they can't because of the cartels. Although I know some states like Bolivia and other states have actually legalized drugs, and in doing so, they wiped out their cartels. They wiped out their issues that they had with it. And they, instead of putting people in prison, they went the route that a lot of countries are doing now. They put people into rehabs and drug prevention programs. So,
I can't imagine what I imagine that our prisons would improve if we stopped putting drug users in there and just put them through rehabs. That would, because like, hey, you're going to jail. That's not going to stop me.
Yeah, and a lot of
people
else, use drugs.
Make me
a lot of people that do abuse drugs suffered childhood trauma, either sexual assault or some sort of other sort of trauma on their mental state. And until we fix that mental trauma they went through, they usually don't get off drugs until they deal with what the symptom is. So it's interesting, but it is interesting to me that they are more liberal in Mexico. It's like they're liberal with everything else, like medicine, and you live here cheap and low taxes. Is there any taxes of living in Mexico, like state yearly taxes you have to pay?
Yeah, it's all federal, and it's so it's something that I've got to step into.
So you have to slide under the door in an envelope late at night to a local.
So, like, it's not that sketchy. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but at the same time, it's like, really okay. So we could talk about taxes in different ways, fees and penalties and that sort of thing. And one of the things that we have to do is we have to get a smog check, and to go 30 days. Yeah, if you go over 30 days after purchasing a vehicle, an extra fine on top of that. And it's like, really? Is this? And so, like, there's these little quirks that just don't make sense. And you kind of scratch your head and go, oh, well, it's Mexico. And
what's the
same thing is with taxes.
Death and taxes are guaranteed in life. So, Paul, it's been interesting to have you on, and we've talked about some really great stuff and covered a wide variety of things, as we always do on the show, which are, I think, interesting. People's stories, people with different lives. And so I appreciate our audience tune in, and that's what we always try and bring you as people and the lives they lead and the stories they have, that hopefully you always learn something. Paul, give us your plugs as we wrap the show.
Well, if you're interested in marketing, Connex Digital Marketing, that's Connex, digitalmarketing.com. If you just want to pick my brain or, whatever, hit me up on Twitter, Namtrock, Namtrok. And then, if you're interested in this crazy lifestyle, we actually have a podcast called Nomad Together, and you can find that over at nomadtogether.com.
Do you usually have the podcast from your vehicle?
Yeah, we don't do video, so people don't know where we are. But yeah, I'm usually in the truck, and my wife does the intros, and she'll record them after the kids go to bed inside the RV. So that, that works a little bit better for her. But
yeah, when you've got kids, it's hard. You've got, they're constantly, if I usually find that if I leave them in their cages and gags in their mouths, then they tend to stay shut up, and I throw them some meat every now and then. But yeah, you have to let them out every now and then for exercise. That's what the child services keep telling me. So we'll see how that goes with the judge and stuff.
Careful. I don't know. That's entirely too close to reality. I don't know if you've followed the news, but there's a family with 15 kids that had it chained in the basement.
There's some hoarder stuff going on with those people or some. That's a damn shame. That's a damn shame what's going on with those kids in California that they found that home. But anyway, I hope those people go to jail for a long time. And I hope whoever also is doing that sees that and goes, maybe we should stop doing that. But yeah, I guess that is a bad joke these days, isn't it? Wow. I've been able to play that thing for years. All right, Paul. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming by. We certainly appreciate you, and have fun in Mexico. I may be rooming with you soon, depending upon how this nation is going in the next 3 years. I may be just like, I'm out of here. Screw this. I may have to go. They may be setting up camps for us liberals. The liberal camps.
Well, you're welcome down here with open arms, and I'll see you in a couple of months then, I think.
Yeah, very likely at the pace we're going. So thank you to my audience. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Please share the podcast. Help support the podcast, at least in that manner, by sharing it. Refer it to your friends, neighbors, relatives, dog, cats, pool boys, mistresses, all that sort of fun stuff. And share. Be sure to go to itunes.com, and of course you can subscribe there. You can also subscribe on Google Play, TuneIn app, and also you can go to patreon.com/Chris Voss and youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that bell notification button so you can get all the notifications of the show. We just tripled downloads, so I'm really excited about that over the holiday, especially since we took like 4 weeks off between Christmas and CES. So be sure to watch our CES coverage as well and our sponsors. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.